Terry?
Okay, being 5 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order. Today with teams, we'll have both Councillor Zepp and Councillor Head. Are you both on side, Councillor Zepp?
Yes, I am.
Councillor Head?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, and Councillor Head, you know how it works when you want to speak? Just say Councillor Head and I'll put you in the queue.
I will, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to remind everyone that we're on Treaty 6 land, the home of the Métis and the Dakota. And I'll ask you to all rise and the city clerk to say the prayer.
O God, let us each in our own way ask your wisdom and guidance in our deliberations. Help us to incorporate into all our decisions those values which will enable us to fulfill our mission, to act as responsible stewards, and to respect and value the cultural and spiritual traditions of all citizens of the City of Prince Albert. For this we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Madam Clerk, we have no changes to the agenda? No. So motion to approve the agenda, please. Oop. Councillor Gilmore.
I move that the agenda for this meeting be approved as presented and the presentations, delegations, and speakers listed on the agenda be heard when called forward by the mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Brodnick.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I will prompt the vote. The vote is now open. Councillor Zepp.
Yes.
Councillor Head.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion's approved and accepted. I'll move on to the next item. Declaration of conflict of interest. We all know how that works. If you have any, you have to declare it and then excuse yourself at the time it comes forward. Number 5, adoption of the minutes. Councillor Miller.
Thank you. That the minutes of the regular council meeting held May 3rd, 2021, a special council meeting held May 10th and 17th, 2021 be taken, read, and adopted.
Thank you. Councillor Gilmer.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the vote. The vote is now open. Councillor Zepp.
Yes.
Councillor Head.
Yes.
Thank you. Passed unanimously. The vote is closed. Number 6, proclamations. I had 2. 6.1, Community Powwow Day, May 28, 2021. 2001, May 23rd to the 29th is Paramedic Service Week. Number 7, presentations. We have none. Number 8, public hearings. We have 1. 8.1, bylaw number 9, landscaping requirements, heavy industrial. So I'm going to declare the public meeting open. And go ahead, Director. You what? Oh, sorry, I got a cue. Add. Oh yeah, then I look for podium. Oh, I missed it. Oh, I missed it. There we go. Okay, Craig, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of City Council. Today, we're considering bylaw 9 of 2021 to establish new regulations in our zoning bylaw, essentially to allow myself as director to waive certain requirements when it comes to landscaping, specifically when it's not practical in our zoning bylaw, specifically in our heavier industrial zones. So areas like the North Industrial, where a more rigorous standard for landscaping hasn't been enforced or required in the past. I am able to alleviate that in some considerations, while also still meeting the intent of the zoning bylaw and keeping the area look up to a certain standard. So that's essentially what bylaw 9 of 2021 does. This has been in front of you on a couple different occasions. Firstly, at executive committee, when I did a presentation. We have done first reading of the bylaw as well, and we moved ahead with public notice and public feedback as well. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, we have not received any negative feedback. I can tell you that over the years, we've certainly had people that have inquired about this type of a regulation and requested this type of a change to our zoning bylaw. So I believe there is support there, but no formal submissions received. So unless there's any questions, we're looking for second and third reading of the bylaw so we can immediately change the City of Prince Albert zoning bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions of the director? Nope. And I see there's no one in the public to object, so I here then declaring the public meeting closed. And council, what's your wish? Councillor Arbuthnot.
Thank you. I'll move the recommendation that bylaw number 9 of 2021 be given second and third readings.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Edwards?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. The vote is now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head? Councillor Head?
Yes.
Yes? Thank you. Okay, it's carried. Madam Clerk?
Mayor Dion, we now have bylaw number 9 of 2021, bylaw to change the landscaping in the M1 heavy industrial zoning district. Bylaw is for second and third reading tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Brodnick?
I'll move that bylaw number 9 of 2021 be read a second time.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Edwards?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll prompt the vote. For second reading. The vote is now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. It's closed. We've accepted it. Third and final reading. Councillor Brodnick.
I'll move that bylaw number 9 of 2021 be read a third time and passed, and that bylaw number 9 of 2021 be now adopted, sealed, and signed by the Mayor and City Clerk.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And I'll prompt the vote. The vote is now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. Vote's now closed. Passed. Carried. Delegations, we have none. Communications, we have none. Reports of administrations and committee. 11.1, development permit application, residential care home, 538th Street West. Now the director's there. Thank you. Could the director, can you go to the podium? And I'll get you back on the speakers list, sorry. Here? The black? Add. Voting. I'll keep it on now till grant the floor. Okay, could you just give us just a quick high level of this? Now, this development permit, I understand, is only for a portion of the land. If you could explain that and what they're asking for, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Dion, and thank you for the opportunity, members of council. For those publicly, 538th Street West, that is the future home of the Rose Garden Hospice. Obviously a very positive and public project in our city that's been promoted over the last number of years. I certainly cannot speak on their behalf, but as we've all heard in the media, they are in the final push for fundraising to make this project a reality. And absolutely the approval of a development permit is a significant milestone to get to that finish line. I know they want to break ground as soon as they are able. Again, they're kind of crossing the finish line when it comes to fundraising, and they're looking at different options to promote their facility and get those final funds. So what we're doing today is approving the development permit. The property is approximately 10 acres in size. I believe there is a map in the report in front of you that kind of superimposes the site plan into an aerial photo, so you can see that the top front 5 acres is what takes up the facility itself. The rear 5 acres is left undeveloped at this time, and I know that they are discussing at the board level what the best use is for that land, and certainly if council decision or information is required, that'll be brought to you. The property has been rezoned appropriately to accommodate this type of a long-term residential care facility use, and they're looking forward to getting a building permit in and starting construction as they're able. You'll see that there is a clause that they need to enter into an agreement with the city regarding the payment of any levies. There are some servicing fees and things like that need to be landed on, and we'll bring that for council's consideration if required as well. And I know they're very excited to get going on this project. So with that, I can answer any questions as best as I'm able.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions? Seeing any?
Tara Lennox.
Go ahead, Councillor Zepp.
Thank you. The report had mentioned green space, and I'm just wondering who would be responsible for the green space.
Thank you, Councillor Lennox-Zepp, for the question. Thank you, Chair. Any green space that would be located on the private property would be the responsibility of the developer.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. A motion? Councillor Edwards?
I'll move the recommendation. I'll move that the development permit application for residential care facility to be located at 538th Street West be approved, subject to 1, the applicant submitting final plans for review and approval by administration, 2, the applicant entering into an agreement with the city regarding the payment of any outstanding costs, fees, or levies if required, and 3, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement and any other required
Thank you.
documentation on behalf of the city once prepared. There's the rest.
Thank you, Councillor Bodnick.
Thank you. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll prompt the vote again. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. The voting's closed. Passes. Okay. 11.2, paratransit bus tender. Councillor Bodnick.
Thank you. I'll move, Mr. Mayor, I'll move this motion as well, that tender number 38 of 2021 for the purchase of a new paratransit bus be awarded to Crestline Coach Limited at a cost of $115,086.36. including all applicable taxes, and 2, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute any applicable documents on behalf of the city if required.
Thank you. Councilor Miller?
Yes, I'll second it. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for the department. I understood our share was 55,000. So should we not be approving that, or do we have to approve the full amount of the 115 and then we get the grant for 55? Can you explain to us how that works?
Yes, thank you for the question. So in all past buses, we've always approved the entire amount, but you're correct. We will be getting a $55,000 grant. And so that is the provincial government share and the balance is ours.
Okay, so then we should be passing the 115, even though we're only going to pay out half of that?
Yes, that's the award price to purchase the bus. Of course, as noted in the report, we would not proceed with the actual purchase order until the letter comes from the provincial government.
Okay, thank you. Oop. What did you do? Oh, you got your answer? Okay, I went to prompt you and you left. Okay, Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to, reiterate to the public about our commitment as a council to special needs transportation, and this is what this is about. We were criticized during the budget deliberations process that we were cutting paratransit, etc. And in fact, we weren't. We're funding, I think, $600 and some thousand for paratransit. Plus, now we're adding also in our budget. We added the purchase of another bus, I should say, at a cost of approximately $55,000-$60,000, something like that. We had budgeted, and so it shows that we are committed to people that are vulnerable in our community, and this demonstrates just part of our commitment to helping and making sure that all citizens of the city are included in that budget and are affected by that budget. And so I'm very pleased that we're going ahead with this particular purchase. Thank you.
Yes. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll prompt the vote. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. The vote is closed. Accepted. Thank you. 11.C, encapsulation cell monitoring and reporting. Councillor Gilmer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will move that the professional services agreement for the monitoring well installation and sampling be awarded to Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions for an estimated cost of $9,559 plus $477.95 GST and $573.54 PST, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement and any other applicable documents on behalf of the city once prepared.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Cody?
Yes, Your Worship, I will second it all right, but I do have some
Go ahead.
comments, questions that I'd like to ask. This piece of land we have seems to be around for a long, long time. I think we've had this piece of land for 20 or 30 years. Is it not time that we discarded or got rid of the land somehow? In spite of the fact I know that there's contamination out there, and this is why we need the wells and why we need the monitoring. But should we not either clean the land up so we don't have to do this monitoring, or should we not do something with it rather than for the next 100 years keep paying this kind of a price, $9,000, almost $10,000 per year for monitoring services? I think something needs to be done here. I think it's very, very poor business on our behalf to continue to pay and not do something with it. Surely there's some options out there, that we can do that would save us the $10,000 per year. I'd like to see us clean up the site, sell it, or else do something with it if we so need the land. And I'd like to ask that question to whomever wishes to answer it.
Okay, I would think this would fall under Director of Public Works. Do you want to comment, or do you want to defer it and bring us a report?
I'm willing to comment.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. So the councillor is correct. We've had that land for approximately 20 years. That was a deal that was done at the time of the beginning of the Cornerstone development with the province of Saskatchewan. So we purchased that land for $1 to remove all of the contaminated soil from the Cornerstone development. So it is a registered contaminated landfill site, which we would not be able to clean up or dispose of through a sale, because no one would possibly buy it because you can't build anything on it. The reason that we're still doing the testing is because, if you recall, only just 4 short years ago, the last piece of that development closest to 6th Avenue East between the TD and Econo Lumber and the railway tracks, the Rocco development, the contaminated soil from that site went into this site, and we created a new cell. We're mandated by the Ministry of Environment to test the ground every year annually. We're going to be doing that for a minimum of 5 years. And after the 5th year, we will be, if the results show that we have not changed any of the groundwater, we'll be petitioning the government to reduce our number of annual tests, and maybe we can do every 2nd year or every 3rd year, and then eventually no more testing.
Thank you. Councillor Cody.
Yeah, and that's a good answer, and that's fair. But surely we are not going to be stuck with this piece of land forever. Like, the whole quarter of land is not contaminated. This site that is contaminated can't be very large. It can't be more than 2, 3, 4 acres. And is there not some way that we could clean it up? I mean, do we have to go down 200 feet, 300 feet? I don't think so. I doubt that. And we have a site now at the landfill where we have it available for contaminated soils. So why would we not look at that to see if we can eventually get rid of it, and we may be able to sell it once it's a clear piece of land?
Back to the director.
So it would be very difficult to remove all the material that has been brought there in the last 20 years, including the material that was there previously to when the province owned it. The stuff that we've been moving there over the years from Cornerstone has all been encapsulated, meaning it's in lined cells so that it's not supposed to leak into the environment below. But thus we still have to test it to ensure that we're being compliant with the Ministry of Environment regulations. To move it all to the landfill would be a monumental task and a very large dollar value. You're correct that not everything out there is contaminated, but everything within the site of the fenced-in area is. And the rest of it is just natural Nisbet jackpine sand forest.
Okay, so maybe I'll be a little direct because you said it. I've been out to the site, and the smallest area is the fenced area. You can see it there, it's in the corner. Could we not then keep that site and dispose of, like, we have a couple good buildings out there and some land? We don't have to keep that. Am I correct in that statement?
The buildings are within the contaminated space inside the fenced area. The rest of the jackpine forest is, uncontaminated. It's just raw land, just like thousands of acres that the city has in that vicinity. There are no services there whatsoever. So it wouldn't matter if it's that quarter or the next quarter over that the city owns that could be sold to somebody who is interested.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll prompt the question. Thank you, Director. Okay, it's now open. Counselor Zepp,
Yes.
Counselor Head,
Yes.
thank you. Motion's carried. Accepted. Thank you. 11.4, traffic calming review. Oop. Counselor Edwards.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion to move this item to the next executive meeting, please.
Okay. Can I get you to shut your light off? Counselor Miller, are you still prepared to
Yeah,
second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Okay, I'll prompt the vote to move it to the next executive meeting.
Tara Lennox up here.
Go ahead.
Just a question on this motion. I'm just wondering if there's any reason or thoughts on why having it at the executive meeting.
Uh-oh, how do I prompt him now? Oh, just go that way? Yeah. Counselor Edwards.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So traffic calming has, it's been in the public eye for a few years now, and I think it's important that we get this right and maybe fish out a few concerns that could be there, and I think executive is for that conversation.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Tony Head.
Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to I guess, comment on the report. I have to say it's well written and it's good information there. So I do look forward to that conversation, and I was looking forward to this vote this evening. Sorry, I should put my camera light on. So yeah, well written, and I do see that there's a process laid out for residents when they want to address any street calming measures, and I encourage them to do that. So look forward to that conversation, and thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Head. And just to give you some audio advice, no, not video advice, if you could just back up a foot, we can only see your nose and your eyes. So you're just a little too close to your camera.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I know you can see and smell, but I want you to be able to hear. Okay, I'll prompt the question. The question is open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. The vote is carried and accepted. So I'm moving to 2020 audited consolidated financial statement. What's council's wish? Councillor Cody.
Yes, I will move that the audited consolidated financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2021 be approved, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute any necessary documents on behalf of the city if required.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'm prompting the question. The voting is now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion's carried. I'll accept it. And I move on to the next item. 11.6, 2021 Assessment Appeals. Okay. Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that the legal and transcription costs of $23,000 for support and defense of the 2021 assessment appeal costs for the Board of Revisions be approved and funded from the fiscal stabilization, and that the Financial Services Department bring a further request for 2021 to support the Saskatchewan Municipal Board's appeals if required.
Thank you. Seconder? Councilor Miller?
Yes, I'll second Mayor Dion.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, I'm prompting the vote. The vote is now open. Councilor Zepp?
Yes.
Councilor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Closing the vote. 11.7, first application, title tax enforcement. Councilor Miller?
That the city proceed with first application for title for the property tax accounts list.
Thank you. Seconder? Councilor Edwards?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll prompt the question. Councilor Zepp?
Yes.
Councilor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. One more. Thank you. Motion passes. Closed. 11.8 skate sharpening service agreement, Kinsman Arena. Councilor Zierakowski.
Your worship will move that the service agreement between the city and Pro Sharp PA for skate sharpening services at the Kinsman Arena be approved for a 3-year term from September 1, 2021 to April 30th, 2024. And that the annual service fee for the term of the agreement be set at $1,435, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the city once prepared.
Thank you. Seconder? Councilor Edwards?
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councilor Gilmer?
I have a question for the director. I'm just wondering how we come to the amount of that lease. Like, how do we determine that amount?
Okay, thank you. Director of Community Services?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Kilmer. We have a base rate per square foot that we calculate in conjunction with our property sales coordinator. So for our lease agreements such as this one, we utilize that rate to come up with the amount. If I recall, this space is only 90 square feet. So that is utilized in the calculation for the annual rate.
Okay, is there PST and GST, or is it a 1435?
My understanding that the 1435 is taxes included.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards?
Yes, thank you, your worship. Just a quick comment. Since this little business has been installed at the Kinsman Arena, it's brought great value to the people that are attending the rink. It's nice to be able to quickly get your skate sharpened or buy some tape, and it's really good to have in that arena.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I'm going to prompt the question. Okay, the question is open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. I'm accepting it and I'm moving on. 11.9, multimedia technical service agreement. Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that the technical service agreement between the city and Big Drum Media for multimedia services at city facilities be approved for a 2-year term from May 1st, 2021 to April 30th, 2023, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the city once prepared.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Edwards?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Question for the director. Is there a reason why we don't show, this is one of the few agreements that we don't show the amounts? Is there a reason for that, or was that just an oversight?
Thank you for the question, Mayor Dion. The schedule of fees is noted. It's difficult in a given year to provide an annual amount, as the demands for the service can fluctuate on an annual basis. So what I can confirm is that the schedule of fees from Big Drum Media, this is the second term in a row where they've maintained the same rates.
Okay.
And we have included them there.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Hearing none.
Chair Lennox up.
Go ahead.
Just a comment and perhaps a question for the director. Any thoughts about the option of having this work performed in-house? And I guess I would ask the director that question.
Okay.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Lennox Epp. So we have previously had a look at this contract in the opportunity of possibly doing it in-house. One of the challenges that comes up with this piece is the equipment side. There would be a significant investment that the city would have to make, for example, at the Art Hauser Center. That's the main location that this service is utilized, not the only, but the main. That investment there would be quite significant. Under this contract, the equipment is provided by the contractor, and then we negotiate, as you see here, rates with respect to the contract and how it's applied. So at this point, it is the more feasible and cost-effective option for the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I'm going to prompt the question. The question is open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. Voting's closed. Motion carries, and I've accepted it. Moving on to 11:10, Kinsman Ski and Snowboarding Center Operator Agreement Renewal. Councillor Brodnick?
I'll move this agreement as well, Mr. Mayor, that the Kinsman Ski and Snowboard Center Extension Agreement between the city and 101290873 Saskatchewan Limited be approved for a 2-year term from June 1st, 2021 to May 31st, 2023, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the city once prepared.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Kilmer?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Zierkowski? Oh, just hang on, Ted. Sorry. You're up.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Question insofar as process here. Because it's a contractor using a civic facility, the Hill at the Little Red, I'm hopeful that planning and conversations go on with the user groups, with the clubs within Prince Albert, as the planning for next winter move forward. And I wonder if the director can speak to that commitment with the contractor moving forward and the city, so that these user groups are involved in the planning, so that they are also involved in the use of that facility.
Okay. Director?
Thank you, Mayor Dion. To Councillor Zierkowski's inquiry, yes, certainly that is an important step. It'll be one of the next steps that we follow should this be approved this evening. User group consultation and this operation specifically was a major part of the Little Red River Park Master Plan, and we want to make sure that that ongoing consultation results in access to the hill in a equitable way and works for the groups. So certainly we will be following that up after this evening.
Thank you. I'm prompting the vote. The vote is now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Thank you for the comment from the director. Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Closed, accepted. 1111, create a legacy Cook Municipal Golf Course. Councillor Cody.
Yes, Your Worship, I would move that the installation of an honor wall on the west exterior of the Pro Shop building be approved in the amount of $25,000, funded from the Golf Course Improvement Reserve.
Thank you. Councillor Bodnik.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Cody.
Yeah, this is a quite a project, actually. You know, we have had lots of people come forward to us at the golf course, indicating to us that they would like to donate some money. But you know, everyone wants a tax receipt, naturally, and which is very good. And I think we're going to get a fair bit of money here. And so I'm pleased to see that we have finally now gone and proceeded with this, because I think it's important that we try and get as much funds into that golf course reserve as possible to keep it up as beautiful as it is. I have to say to the folks today that the course is in magnificent shape. The greens are the best they've been in for years, and the golf course is green as grass, if that's a pun. But it's wonderful, and I think the money that we get from this will continue on to be able to improve the paths and the likes of that. So I'm pleased to see that we're going to fund it in this particular way.
Thank you. With all that good grass and everything else, did it help your score?
Actually, my score is not that bad, but there is room for improvement.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll prompt the question.
Oh, just Tony Head here. Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to say again, I think it's a great initiative, and if it's going to attract some donations, then by all means, I think that's a great initiative, and I appreciate the report. I actually like some of the history that was in there, and thanks to the person putting that together. So I'll support this motion.
No problem. I'll prompt the question. The question is now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. Question's closed, carried, accepted. And we're moving on to the next agenda item. 11.13, freestanding digital sign, Sask Rivers Division. Oh, sorry. I put two checks in the wrong spot. 11.12, Prince Albert Elks Club, number 58, donation to Cook Municipal Golf Course. Councillor Cody.
Yes, once again, I will be proud to move this motion that the reconstruction and repair of stone wall and T-signs be approved at an estimated cost of $65,000, funded from the Golf Course Improvement Reserve.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Bodnik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, Councillor Cody?
Yeah, you know, it's been about 20 or 25 years now since the stone wall was done, and it was done by the seniors group. The seniors did all of the work and did all of the funding, and it was wonderful at the time. But you know, time goes on, and resulting in the fact that it now needs some repair, and quite major repair in some areas. So I'm pleased to see that we're going to do that repair and keep the course up into the shape that I think those seniors wanted it to be. Some of those seniors aren't with us anymore today.
Absolutely.
That were the people who did all that stonework, like Mr. Kent and some of them.
Yes.
And it's very much appreciated work that they did, and I'm pleased to see that we're going to proceed with this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to prompt the question. Prince Albert Elks Club donation. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Accepted, closed. Okay, now I'm moving on. 11.13, freestanding digital sign, Sask Rivers Division. What's council's wish? Councilor Edwards?
Also move that the sign application for a freestanding digital sign located at 2675 4th Avenue West be approved, subject to administration reviewing and improving the final sign specification. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Councilor Kilmer,
I'll second that.
discussion? Oh, we're getting a few lights. Push your buttons. Oh, yes, stretchy. Councilor Miller?
Yeah, seeing it's going back for administration review, I know the schools in my area, they actually don't have freestanding signs. They have it actually mounted on their school. So if that could be also in the review, that would be great. I just think that it shouldn't be taking up space in the playground and when it has a place to be on the school, so the kids don't, do other things with the sign, like crawl up on it and do such things.
Now, just so you know, if you vote in favor of this motion, it doesn't come back to us. When administration, they're just going to review it. It's not for us. It's for them to review it and make sure that it meets their standards. So just so you know, if you vote in favor of this motion, it doesn't come back to us for final approval. You're welcome. Councilor Zierakowski.
Thank you, Your Worship. Every once in a while I'm reminded why we're in this room having these conversations. And this is a small issue. That's probably larger than we first suspect. I guess a couple of questions, if I may, first. Do we know if there was any grant funding or additional capital dollars that originated outside of the capital envelope or outside the education envelope for this project to move forward? Was this discussed at the School Division Advisory Committee?
No.
Okay. So I guess one of the things that concerns me is, and Councillor Miller alluded to it, this area has lost a couple of things when it comes to their kids. Number one, they've lost that hill. They've lost that sliding hill. They've lost part of their playground with the expansion. And so I wonder if the cost of this sign, if the kids were asked, if the students were asked, what's more important for your school? Is it a digital sign or is it an EA in your classroom or perhaps access to a laptop within your classroom? Now, I know it's outside of our lane a little bit, but you know what? The answer to that is it's come to us for approval. And so we represent those families. We represent those kids as well. And I look forward to a day when I wake up, the sun is shining on my face, and I see communication, yes, but advertisement from school boards all across the province stops. The millions of dollars spent in advertisement when it could be going to the classroom for those students that come from our families that we represent in our neighborhoods. So I'm just going to ask my colleagues to pause for a moment. Is this communication? Is this advertisement? Could it be put up against the wall? To me, this is a bit of an escalation. This is a bit of a leap forward to have a freestanding sign on 28th Street near an arterial road. I think there's a different purpose here, and I think this is a moment in time where we can say, we can pause and say, is this what's best for our community?
Okay. Councillor Bodnick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally agree with what Councillor Zierakowski is saying, is that, I did 36 years in that profession as an educator, and when you look at the amount of cuts and the amount of things that educators are expected to do and do more with less, And if we can see that we have money for these kinds of, to me, they're not necessarily, like, they're not essential services for the education of the
They're not
children.
classroom.
They're not, and especially when education dollars are so tight, and we've heard school divisions complaining about, you know, the cuts, the millions and millions of dollars to cuts to the classroom. Why are we wanting a sign? I don't get it either. First of all, you know, send home that parent note, that parent guardian note, if you need to advertise within your community. Those are, you know, those, and I'm not telling people how to run their schools, but those are the things that I would think would be much more effective. I also feel for the people that have to face that sign 24/7. That one house on 4th Avenue, I don't know where they stand on this sign, but I sure would not want to live in that house that I'm looking out my picture window at a massive sign or a sign and a lit up sign, you know, at night, etc. I don't think I would want to see that. I know in my ward, I have a school, well, 2 schools that have digital signs, and I've had some complaints of one from some residents about the one sign, that it's too bright at night, especially. And so therefore, I don't see the reason why we need to do this, to be honest. And as Councillor Zurkowski said, I think, you know, scarce dollars could be spent perhaps in different ways, different areas. So I will be voting against the motion.
So will I, and I actually have a question for the director. Under our zoning bylaw, I believe this sign is not authorized. I realize that council can overrule the zoning bylaw and make exceptions, but I'd like to know, does it qualify under our zoning bylaw? Because I'm not prepared to change our bylaw. So that's my question. Does this sign qualify under the zoning bylaw, or is that why it's here today for our approval?
Thank you, Mayor, for the question. A couple things. Yes, the sign, the freestanding sign itself does comply with all provisions in our zoning bylaw. The sign itself is not what requires council approval. It is the fact that it is digital. That is the aspect that requires council approval. So I do want it to be clear, if council does, you know, turn down the digital sign, which is absolutely your prerogative, the school division does have the option of still erecting the sign. But it would be static, and it would not be digital. So a bit of a long-winded answer there for you, but yes, it would comply with our zoning bylaw. The digital component is what requires council approval.
Okay, because I thought it'd be like the rest of the schools, they put it on the building. I noticed this one's going to be out in the field.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. They are required to be, you know, meet certain setbacks and things like that. I'd be happy to bring that up with the school as an option to put it on their building. You know, the obvious reason for being close to 28th Street is just, you know, a little bit more public and better display and things like that. And again, I'd be happy to flag that for you, but I imagine they chose that location strategically.
Yeah, it's a great advertising location.
Yeah.
Okay, I too won't be supporting it, not freestanding. Okay, any other comments? Hey, none, I'm going to prompt the question. Councillor Zapp?
No.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion is defeated 7-2. Okay, we're going to move on to 11.14, 2021 Land Pricing Review. Oh, Councillor Bodnick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that the price for vacant lots for sale owned by the city in Crescent Acres Neighborhood Phase 4A be reduced by 20% from the original sale price.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to prompt the question. Counselor Zepp?
No.
Counselor Edwards? No, sorry, Counselor Ed?
Yes.
Thank you. It passes 8-1. So I'll accept the vote. Move on to the next one, 11.15, Planning, Communications, Public Notice Practices. Council, what's your wish? Oop. Counselor Edwards?
I'll move the recommendation. I'll move that the Planning and Development Services Department implement the following practices in accordance with Section 10(2) of the city's Public Notice Bylaw, number 24 of 2015, and at the discretion of the Director of Planning and Development Services for discretionary use permits that may be deemed controversial, such as custodial care facilities, residential care facilities, or residential care homes. And one, that a public meeting shall be held prior to City Council's consideration. Two, that a public notice letter shall be sent to all properties located within 150 meters of the subject property. And three, that in addition to the standard language contained in the public notice letter issued by the city, the notice shall include A, detailed letter about the proposed use prepared by the applicant, B, the scheduled date of the public meeting, and C, the scheduled date of the city council meeting.
Thank you. Councilor Gilmer?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilor Zierakowski? Yep.
So thank you for the report, and I thank you for the willingness of the department to serve our community in a better way. I have a question and I have a comment, maybe two comments. We'll see how it goes here. I guess I just don't see it as much as a controversial issues. I see it as a better practice. I see it as community informing the community of what's going on. I see it more of a less about controversy and seeing what more we can do to inform the neighborhoods of what's going on in their community. It doesn't necessarily have to be a controversial issue. To me, this is about changing the way we do things. It's about having a better practice of informing and listening to our communities. So while dealing with controversial issues, it's a subjective term, has led us down this path, I think it's really important we understand that. How do we better serve our residents? And this is one way. The other issue that we've chatted about is the length of time, the turnover. So I'd like some clarity on that. We just dealt with a public hearing where public notice came back just over 10 days. I think it was 13 days if my math is right. So how does this change in practice change that turnover? We've heard from our residents, we've heard from the neighbors that say 10 days isn't enough. It's not enough. So are we changing that practice as well, increasing that length of time?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilor Zierakowski. You bring up a good point. It certainly could be clarified and included in the recommendation, but I do believe it is not necessary in the recommendation for a couple of reasons. Firstly, since we are required, we'll only be doing one public notice. In that public notice, we'll be bringing people up to speed with the opportunity to attend a public meeting. Not only that, we'll be letting them know when the actual application will be going to City Council. So the time that is needed for us to send out that letter, to hold a public meeting, to get feedback from the meeting, and also write our reports, would be looking at a minimum of 20 days regardless. So I'd be certainly satisfied if that was included or added to the recommendation. But you'd be looking at a minimum of 20 days just to get that feedback from the public. There's no way we can move ahead with this with this process in any quicker than that. I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you. I just want to clarify so I can explain it to the neighbors that, so in fact, by changing these practices, the practicality is it's going to increase that length of time because we now have to do A, B, and C, which will lengthen the time of D.
You're absolutely correct, yes.
Councillor Head, did you have a comment on this one?
Thank you, Your Worship. I did. I just more so wanted to echo Councillor Zerkowski's comments. I think it's important that we are moving in this direction, and so obviously I'm going to support this motion, and I'm glad that administration heard loud and clear from the residents, in the camera, and also from this council. So happy we're making this change, and definitely allow more feedback from residents and allow us a better, more fulsome view of people's opinions and wants in that area. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments?
Tara Lennox up.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I am in favor of the motion that we have here. I just want to raise another issue that goes hand in hand with this issue, and that is the public being able to speak at city council meetings on a item, and also the public being able to provide written communication onto council on an item that's already on the agenda. And we did see this occur with our last, most recent residential care home that was defeated. And so when we look at the procedure bylaw, section 24, it indicates that written communication for an item already on a council agenda must be received by the clerk no later than 4:45 on the Tuesday preceding the council meeting in order to be included on the agenda. And similarly, it goes on to talk about being able to speak at a council meeting. The individual must also provide that information by the Tuesday before the council meeting. However, the agenda only goes out the Thursday preceding the council meeting. And so I have heard from members of the community that they would like to see our council make a change on that so that we're not dissuading anyone in the community from trying to put written communication or to try to speak at a meeting. I know that we can do a request in the when we move the agenda, and that sometimes those pass to add someone the day of the meeting. However, our formal procedure bylaw, I think it would be more transparent and better for the public if we did update our procedure bylaw so that members of the public, it was publicly known that you can speak at a council meeting and you can provide written material to go on to an agenda. So there must be a way that we could work on that. And so I'm thinking that that would be something for a future notice of motion that may make a lot of sense for our council. Just, and as a last conclusion note on that, our current website, it does state very clearly that you need to have that material into the clerk's office the Tuesday preceding the meeting, even though the agenda only goes public on the Thursday preceding the meeting. And so I think our communication could be better on that so that people don't read that website and think that there's no way that they can do that, and we could update our procedure bylaw. So I'm hoping to be able to draft a notice of motion in the future, not today, but in the future to reflect that. Thank you.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting discussion because one of the reasons we require it, because on the Wednesday, we have the agenda and the agenda review, and that's when we put things on the agenda or take them off, and we also know how long the meeting's going to take us. But interesting point. Thank you. And I'll prompt the question. Ooh. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. Our motion carries. So Zepp the motion. We're moving on. 11.16, residential policy amendment, moving expenses policy. Oh, Councillor Miller.
That the residency policy and moving expenses policy be approved.
Thank you. Seconder. Counselor Cody?
I second it.
Thank you. Comments? Hearing none, I'm probably. Okay, Counselor Zepp?
Thank you very much. I strongly oppose the residency policy and a couple of points that I wanted to make known about that. So this policy, I'm concerned that we as a city, I think that we want to hire the best, most qualified applicant to be doing the work for us as a city. And I do not see the value of restricting that in any of our out of scope positions to people that would have to be living within the city. It is already difficult to hire, qualified individuals for our positions, and I would not want to see us restrict that any further. Also, I would like us to have a city and really be working always on improvements to our city, to have our city be a place where employees want to live. And I do not I oppose the idea of requiring employees to have to live within city boundaries, just so for the, and as I've heard the debate in other meetings, I understand that the point is to have these employees to be, to have to reside right within the city. It's not the same as elected officials being required to live within the city. Our employees, we hire them to be experts in their area. We hire them to be able to provide that expertise and that service to the city, but it's not the same as elected officials being required to live within the city. They are not, the employees are not the decision makers. They are the providing the service for the city to be able to run properly. Lastly, I have to note that I think that if we are a city who wants to encourage diversity hiring and hiring of First Nations individuals, that I am concerned that there's no specific exemption regarding those individuals that reside on First Nations. There are some very obvious reasons why individuals may be residing on a neighboring First Nation, but would be a very good qualified candidate for us. And I would hate to see us as a city exclude those individuals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Abrodnik?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, the public needs to know who this policy is going to affect. And it's not going to affect all employees of the city of Prince Albert. We're not saying that every single employee has to live in the city. We have a list of the employees that we think should live in the city. And I can use all of Councillor Lennox Zepp's comments to say that these employees, the city manager, the city solicitor, the city clerk, the director of finance, director of corporate services, director of public works, director of community services, director of economic planning and development, the fire chief, the deputy fire chief, and the battalion fire chiefs should all live in the city. That's what we're saying. Right? That's what the policy is about, is this is the list from my understanding of what we're requiring. We're not requiring that.
No, it also includes managers.
And okay, and our managers. So it's
65 employees.
We're looking at the highest paid employees in the city of Prince Albert that are being expected to live in the city. And so I don't think that this is unreasonable. I would want my fire chief to be living in the city. He does. But I would want future fire chiefs to be living in the city and not living in Saskatoon or somewhere. I think that this isn't an unreasonable request to have the people that are guiding us as well and giving us reports and giving us feedback, expert feedback, like Councillor Lennox Zepp said, that they should be a member of the community. And so I'm going to support this, this motion. Thank you.
Okay, I'm also going to support the motion, strictly on a few points. Number one, if you look up the taxation we lose, and people say, Greg, it's about dollars and cents. It is when you're building a $60 million sports facility and splash pool that we would like everyone to contribute to. We know residents outside our city do not contribute to it. So I do expect our employees to live in our city, especially our high-end employees. What would it look like if our city manager lived in Martinsville? Our highest paid employee lived in Martinsville. I'd be looking for reasons to depart ways with that person. And I don't think it's going to be a hindrance in hiring people. I disagree with that. And I won't share this person's name, but it is an out-of-scope person that came to me and said to me that if it would help, he'd move into the city. Well, I praise him because he sees our debate and our argument that we have to grow our tax base. If we want to keep taxes low, we control the taxes by increasing our population, increasing our commercial businesses and other businesses. That's how you grow your taxation. If you allow people to continue to not live in our city that's employed by us, the rest of the people are going to have to pay the taxes. And you have to remember, these are high-end payers. We're not talking about the low-end people. We're talking about the high-end payers. And I don't have an issue with the policy at all. I've defended it. I've debated it with other people. And it will also be bringing it forward. If this passes, it will also be bringing it forward to the police commission to adopt a similar policy. And so then that means all employees in the city would be governed by the same policy. And I don't think it's unreasonable. If you're taking a job, I'm very proud to be the mayor of PA. And if I was an employee, I'd be very proud to be an employee. And I wouldn't think of living outside the city, even though I would have the capability. I just think it's, and sometimes just common sense, that if you're going to apply for a job in the city of PA, that you better expect to move to the city of PA. You're not applying at the city of PA, oh, let's move to Christopher Lake and let's apply for a job at the city of PA. People don't think that way. Let's go, I want to work in the city of PA. It's a progressive city. It's moving forward economically. In the next few years, it's going to be strong. And those are the reasons. And the other reason I moved to the city is the amenities that we have. You know, we have a fine arts facility. We have all these other facilities. We're building these new rinks. We're building the new pool. And we've all complained about the non-residents having the same equal access that we do to our facilities and not having to pay for it. So I even think it's more prudent that our employees be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Councillor Kilmore.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree that it is critical that we create a community that fosters loyalty, vested interest, and genuine stake in our city. That the feeling of togetherness in our community, we need to foster a greater sense of community, identity, pride, and spirit. But for me, that community is PA and area. Governed by different bodies, but users of the amenities and services. So I believe that in PA and the surrounding areas, and that city administration and the RMs must work together to come up with a solution to paying for these amenities and services in an equitable manner. If the RMs aren't ready to come to the table, then I believe that the surrounding area residents are willing to do that. I think that we need to get our city admin to look at the possibilities of how those the residents of the RMs can do that. PA is a great place to raise a family, whether inside or outside in our community. Our city boundaries do not define who we are. Prince Albert's an area, and people are proud to support that area and say that they're from that area. I don't believe this policy is necessary, nor will it achieve the goal to establish stronger relations between employees, residents, and the community in which they work.
So I won't be supporting this motion.
Tony Head here.
Okay, I'll come to you, Tony. Counselor Head? Oh, sorry. Oh, you did that? Okay, Counselor Head, go ahead.
Thank you. I apologize for my camera. I don't know, I'm doing the best I can, but I do want to say I agree with some of the other counselors, particularly Counselor Lennox Zepp and Counselor Kilmer. Sorry about the camera. But I think it is important that, you know, as the mayor said, collect taxes, but I don't think this is the way that we go about doing that. You know, I would implore and encourage my other councillors to defeat this motion, as some of the points were made already. And I've tried to express some of my views and why I disagree. And so I'm not going to go and regurgitate some of those things, but I have to be frank. I feel that this policy is unreasonable, unnecessary, and quite frankly, unjust. So I'll just leave my comments there. I'm not supporting this. And I think it's, you know, not doing us a service here in Prince Albert by limiting our hiring ability. And moving forward, I don't think it's the best interest of Prince Albert.
Councillor Edwards?
Thank you, Your Worship. I really am waffling on this. I think there's some strong points to it, but I also see some points that I don't agree with. And one major concern for me of this motion is there's several people within the organization today that maybe, you know, 5, 6 years, 3 years away from retirement, a job comes up. These people may be settled, you know, whether they're at the lake or whether they're on an acreage somewhere, and they won't apply. And they're going to limit. We're going to limit those applications. And you know what? Some of those people could bring big value to the corporation, and I don't want to lose that. Although I think that there should be some form of incentive to live in our city and to work for our city and live in our city. I believe
$110,000 a year is the incentive.
Yeah, those jobs are available in many places, no question, and not just the corporation of the city of Prince Albert, but many places. So as the policy currently stands, I'm having difficulty with it. Do I believe that the communication with the RMs needs to improve, and hopefully we can get to the table and we can discuss some of those concerns, so we can work as a whole, work as an area. I think we need to be stronger on that. To me, the policy, there's some concerns, and I don't want to lose out on some of the better employees that may not even apply. And that's something we don't know.
You don't know.
We don't know that. So that's everything. Thank you.
Councillor Cody?
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Well, I'm certainly going to support the motion because I think it's necessary. You know, I can't believe anybody's saying that we should have a community here, and I agree with that, and I agree with Councillor Kilmer saying we need this as a community. But do we believe for a minute that Saskatoon is our community, or Moose Jaw is our community? That's where some of our employees live. They live in Saskatoon and Moose Jaw. For heaven's sakes, is that proper? That's not proper at all. That's got nothing to do with community. It's got to do with the fact that they don't want to live here, but they want to work here because we pay them well and we treat them well. This is a great city to work. It's a great city to live in, and I'm proud to be I was a businessman here for 22 years. I was the mayor for 9 years. I'm now on council for almost 8 years, and I'm proud of every bit of it. And I still work. And I'm proud of everything that's going on in this city. This is a good city to live in.
Yes.
And I don't know why our employees who are
Yes.
getting paid $90,000 and $125,000 don't believe the same as I do, that it's a good place to be. We cannot afford, we simply cannot afford to allow this motion to be defeated and allow these people to remain outside of the city any longer. We need to have their help. We want them in here. If we didn't like those people, we wouldn't hire them. We like them. They're good employees. But yet at the same time, they don't like us. They don't like this city. They want to live elsewhere. Well, and I don't think it's right. It just simply isn't right. Anybody living in Moose Jaw should have no right to work in Prince Albert. And anybody living in Saskatoon shouldn't have any right to live in Prince Albert either. To work in Prince Albert, I should say. That's just simply wrong. I think we need to convince the RMs to do more collectively, collaboratively. There's no question about that. But I can tell you right now, if you believe that that's in the cards in the next little while, you're kidding yourself. How much are we going to get for our big project? And how many people from the RMs are going to use it? Loads of them. I'd like to see them come up with some of the dollars. We, the taxpayers here, less 23 or 25% of our employees, are footing the bill. And the kids from the RMs and everywhere else are using them. I know they come up with the argument and say, well, look, we buy groceries in your community, we buy our cars in your community. Well, where the hell do I buy my groceries? I buy them here too. Buy my cars here, buy my gas here. So nothing changes in that regard.
No.
And I think we will get a better deal with these RMs if we can. And if we can't, we'll go it on our own. We'll go it on our own like we always have. And we'll try our level best to make a community that we have now, which is great, even greater. And I think we need those people who are living outside the community come on in and help us.
Councillor Zerikowski.
Thank you, Worship. You know, much of what we've heard here today on both sides of the argument, I think, is correct. The solution is, how do we get there? Because whether you're voting for or against, I think what we have in front of us today is a tool, a potential tool, that maybe lacks a little bit of sophistication, lacks a few nuances. And what I'd like to see us do is keep chewing on this until we get it right. I agree with my colleague to my left, both of them. I think they're speaking the same language. Absolutely, there should not be an employee working for the city of Prince Albert that lives in Moose Jaw or Lethbridge or Saskatoon or Regina. Absolutely not. But that's not what this policy says. This policy says within the city limits of Prince Albert. And so perhaps this policy lacks a little bit of creativity to allow some flexibility with our neighboring RMs. And let me say it again. Our RM neighbors, friends, relatives nearby need to be called out. That level of government, the RM government, needs to be called out and say, work with us. We need your help for these infrastructure costs, for the pipes in the ground, for the $18 million pipe that's going into the river, that's going to your RMs. We need some help with that. And if the RM governments won't engage in that conversation, then I'm hopeful the people who live there will. That will call their councillors and their reeves and say, work with the city of Prince Albert. Because we know that 30% of our youth go to the city for activities. And we have a responsibility to share that benefit as well as that burden. So I hear the passion in the room, and I understand the problem. This tool needs a little sharpening. And so rather than move forward with it today, I think we need to chew it on a little bit more, because we need to move forward in a bigger way, but I'm afraid this tool doesn't get us there.
No, we've chewed on it long enough. You guys all forget one part that's in there. If we find that star employee, and he wants to live outside our city limits, the city manager has the right to approve that. You're forgetting that part of the tool. So if you think that this golden, shiny employee is just going to appear, which I hope he does, then it'll be up to the city manager whether that position is valued enough. And I'll tell you here, in 1 year, our committee that we've assigned to work with the RMs are going to report back that they will not tax for us. They will not. Like, you've heard that for 10 years now. to the point the city mayors are pleading with the government to force them, not to ask them. We're done asking. I've asked 9 times. Think of it. If you were a councillor in the RM, would you tax for the city of PA? I don't think you would. The citizens may want it, but they're not the deciding factor. I don't see a petition coming from either of the RMs to their administration. Said, let's help our neighbors. This is a start. Is it perfect, Ted? No, it's not. Could it be better? Yes, it could. But it's like every other thing that we've done. We've passed it, then we've massaged it and changed it. We've had to start somewhere. So I'm really saying today is the day that we start. This sends a message, and then we can start negotiating. Councillor Miller.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was going to say the same thing about our city manager and his responsibilities in this policy. And he's going to be responsible for the merits and authorities given to him by us through this policy.
And he does the hiring.
And he does the hiring. He's quite capable. He's been here for years, and I truly believe that he can do that job. And so that's why we actually changed the policy for him to do this when it went back. So now we have it, and I'm very comfortable with that moving forward. Also, I am not impressed that some of our employees live outside of our city. I know that there's a few individuals who come and do presentations to us all the way from Alberta. And it's very interesting that happens. We have him, and we're working with him and doing our best with that. Also, I do know that our firefighters have to live within 15 minutes of their fire station. So that's interesting. That's in their contract. And I do believe our city manager has to live 5 minutes away from City Hall. That's in his contract. And there's a few people who live in other areas of our province. Melfort was one of them that was brought up to me.
Yes.
I'm not very happy with that situation going on. I mean, I sat on the planning committee for the RMs. I invite our new members of council to go there and see how much you can change. It's changed now. There's been elections, but I invite you to sit on the committee and go for a couple of meetings, and you know where you sit, and you're told where you sit.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's quite simple for me. If you work, a pure example, if you work at Lakeland Ford, you drive a Ford.
Councillor Botnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple more comments. As you know, I hear you that we need to work, and we are also a region. Like we have PREDA, our regional economic development. We're working with the region as well on some things. I agree with that. You know, our provincial government has agreed with us, saying that the new hospital is going to be a regional hospital. It's not going to be just the city of Prince Albert, because they recognize that people are using these facilities. And this policy, as we said, is going to be asking our highest paid employees to reside within the city. Our future. And that's what it's going to say. It's the future employees. And we're going to grandfather right now the status quo. It's going to stay as is, but it's future employees. So if I'm applying for a job, you know, like I have applied for as an individual for some jobs. Well, it says, you know, if you want to work for the ministry, I wouldn't be able to live here. I'd have to move to Regina or whatever. I mean, the job description is going to say that. So if you don't want that job, or if you do have some extenuating circumstances where a married couple is living, let's say in Rostron or wherever, the city manager then can make an exemption on that particular situation for those kinds of reasons. So it will address Indigenous peoples living on reserve land to be able to
Yes.
still maintain their residency if that case comes before us via the city manager being able to do that. So we're not going to be discriminating against people and saying you can't apply because of where you do live. It's just saying that this is what we want. And we want to encourage our highest paid employees to be able to, as Councillor Cody said, live and work and play within the city of Prince Albert. And so I'm supporting this, and I hope we can move forward. Change is a process, and so Councillor Zurkowski, as Mayor said, is we will get it, and Councillor Edwards, we will get it eventually right. Like, it might not be perfect. It probably will. We will make amendments and adjust things as we go along, and that's that process of making change. It's not an event, it's a process. So hopefully we support this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to move on because we've all had a chance to talk. So I'm going to prompt the question. Okay, the question is now open. Councillor Zepp?
No.
Councillor Head?
No.
I'm missing one. Okay, the motion is defeated. So I will be calling on our committee that we established to get funding from the RM to move swiftly to do it. And I'll be giving them some dates so a report back to us on how our friendly neighbors are going to help share with the cost of building our facilities. 11.17, funding request Prince Albert Alcohol and Steering Committee.
Tony Head here.
Yes?
I'll move this motion that the funding request from the Prince Albert and Area Community Alcohol Steering Committee dated March 12th, 2020 be forwarded to the 2022 budget deliberations for consideration.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilor Gilmore. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll prompt the question. Oop, sorry. Councilor Zurkowski.
So, Mayor, didn't this issue go to the Police Commission for discussion? What was the discussion there? What was the decision there? Was
It came
move
after
forward, or
budget.
did it-
This was the problem, same with us. This request came after we'd already approved our budgets.
Okay.
So that's why it ended up going to the next budget cycle.
Okay. So on this ask is the result of the request for dollars only.
Correct. That was it and actually for a 4-year funding model, something was different. Okay? Okay, the vote is open. Councillor Head?
Yes.
Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. So I'll close the motion and accept it. 11.18, Community Services Advisory Committee Work Plan. Councillor Brodnick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that the 2021 work plan for the Community Service Advisory Committee be approved.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Oop, sorry, my finger's quick today. Councillor Zurkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple items off of the work plan. The Urban Forestry Management Plan, and I guess that was the only one. So on the Urban Forestry Management Plan, I can think of no better time other than 15 years ago to start having a conversation with our partners, with the province and our neighbors as well about coming up with a meaningful fire mitigation plan for our urban forest across the river. And I wonder if this is now a time to pick up the phone and talk about a shared plan, whether it be using type 2 provincial firefighters or hiring contract workers, or even our folks living behind a fence. Some movement of that plan that we've been talking about for 10 years, insofar as that urban fire in the Pines.
Yeah.
So, in related to this item, I'm wondering if we can kick it quicker to a higher level conversation rather than leave it for the committee. I'm wondering where it is on the priority of the department, I suppose.
What I'd like to do is leave it to the committee. We are going to be bringing a debriefing plan to council on this fire. And one thing I did discover, looking into it, along Cloverdale Road, both the federal government and the city has approved their share of the money to put a fire guard in. It's been there for a year and a half now, and it's the province that hasn't funded it yet. So you can tell the need now. You know, of course, it takes a disaster to get something to move sometimes. So no, we will be bringing that forward because the other issue that we do have, our biggest threat of the Nesbitt Forest overgrowth, of course, is still in the Little Red and areas north of the Little Red all the way up to Marks 9. So that's still a heavy fire threat to us, and that's clearly within our city limits, the Little Red. So it is a concern to us, so we're actually going to bring forth a couple of plans and suggestions to council on how we can move forward and protect ourselves. Councillor Zierkowski.
Thank you for that. Looking forward to that, to those conversations. The Little Red Master Plan, will that include a conversation about how soon we can move on a trail that goes from the bridge to the Little Red, whether it's paved or not?
Yes, we're talking about the existing, there is an existing trail there. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I'm talking about expanding the rotary trail.
Yes.
So that we can get access by walk or by bicycles. The Little Red Master Plan is here, but that stretch from the bridge to the Little Red is not in the Little Red. So I don't want to lose that conversation. Does that conversation go there at the committee, or is that something here at executive that we need to flesh out?
Yeah, it's going to be executive because I did get a plan that there is a trail. It used to be a lot better, but it's starting getting overgrown from the bridge all the way to the Little Red. So we are bringing that up because we also have a service club that's looking at it.
I wonder if the department can answer a question since the public is listening tonight, if it is in the work plan or if they need a little bit of impetus to move forward and encouragement from council about that piece from the bridge to the Little Red. Since it's not in the Community Services Advisory, I'm wondering if it's on the department's work plan.
Okay, can we go to the department head?
Yes, Mayor Dion.
Thank you.
So, no, good discussion. That certainly is a topic that remains a priority. You're right, Mayor. There is a service club that has some interest in that project. We're continuing that conversation, although it's not specifically listed in the master plan. It does form an important future connection out to the park. So it's not lost on the department at this point. It will be a priority, and we'll report further once we have further information.
Thank you. Is that good enough, Council? Okay. Okay, so that'll prompt the vote. Oop. Hang on, I'm prompting the vote again. I hit the wrong square. But I do know how to reset it now. Okay. The vote is now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Accepted. Motion closed. Unfinished business. 12.1, motion from Councillor Lennox Zepp. Members' residency required. are you going to withdraw this motion after the last discussion, or is it your intention to continue?
I am moving the motion that the city only accept applications going forward from individuals who are residents within the city of Prince Albert for appointment as members to the following committees: Planning Advisory Committee and Community Services Advisory Committee.
Okay, a seconder? Whew, just after that last discussion. Okay, I'm going to move on. Lack a seconder, so
Thank you.
you're welcome. Number 13, Mayor and Councilors Forum. Councilor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. I'd just like to thank everybody who participated in the community cleanup this year. It was a great success, and the three places did very well four places, I believe it was, did very well doing their community cleanup, and it was a good turnout. There was a few schools that did participate, and not too sure which ones they were, but I'd like to also thank Buddy's convenience store and Silkins for the treats they gave the kids, Westmore High and St. Michael's School, I believe it was. Yeah, it was a good turnout. It was a very nice, it didn't rain and it didn't snow on me this year, you guys. So I was very happy about that. Also, I would like to thank our communications department on our census video. It was a well done piece, and the company they hired to do it did a really great job. And yeah, don't forget to fill out your census.
Yes. Councilor Brodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too just want to echo about the community cleanup, and although Ward 5 was not officially a part of it, we did have a neighborhood within our ward, the Crescent Acres neighborhood north of Muzzy, did a cleanup of the vacant lots and the lots that are for sale that we just reduced in price tonight. But in particular, I want to thank Chelsea Bergen, for a resident of that particular neighborhood, for organizing her fellow neighbors in cleaning up that particular area. And thank Dave Miller for hauling the garbage away. We were able to have it all stacked in one area and hauled it away for the residents of that particular area. And my understanding is the Community Services Department will pick up the piles of concrete that have been left in those vacant lots that were all accumulated in one area, and we'll get those disposed of as well. My second thank you is to the fire department. I know you're probably going to mention that, Mr. Mayor, but I personally too want to just thank, and I think on all councillors and everybody involved wants to thank the response of management, the firefighters, the volunteers, the provincial government, everybody that was involved in containing that potentially very, very dangerous situation. I'm amazed that when I saw that smoke and that fire, that properties were not lost. And so I just, or significant damage to homes and stuff. So I'm very thankful that we have a system in place that is able to respond that quickly and get things under control, and showing how people can work together. Different agencies and governments can work together in when a crisis occurs. And so I'm very thankful of the area and of our particular fire department as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will close with this, and I am going to talk about the fire just for a minute, so I want to thank you for your patience. First of all, to our men and women of our fire department, kudos. Also, some of them worked over 30 hours. So you have to think of it. Even though they live for fires, there is a limit. I did talk to one of the wives today, and in 4 days, her husband was home for 1 hour. So, you think of that's incredible. And I also want to thank our management and previous council and this council for their forward thinking of spending $60,000 on sprinkler systems. I've asked the chief to bring a further report back to this council to buy more, because unfortunately during this fire, when it did jump and go towards Birch Bay, that we had to make a decision on which houses we sprinkler or not. And we shouldn't be in that position. It's a good investment. We have proven, especially in this fire, I was out there every day, those sprinklers work. It's just incredible how you can go from me to Councillor Brodnick, and that from Councillor Brodnick is burnt right out. But the sprinklers kept this little piece in the building standing. And so kudos to them. Now, kudos to our community. The calls my office took, of course, who's the first person that called my office? Ed from Tim Hortons. Where do you need coffee and donuts? Don't even ask. Just tell us and we'll deliver them. And we had all kinds of people like that. We had Harold's IGA jump up, making sandwiches and stuff. It was just a great coming together of our communities. And they all work together, the RM of Buckland with their fire department, our fire department, the province. But some people don't know this, and so I'm going to share this too, is that we had fire crews come from Melfort and Humboldt to give us some relief. And they were pleased to come because they didn't get an opportunity. Most of them that come, I especially met the ones from Melfort, were younger, and they were excited to be here because, that's something that they're not going to see in their lifetime, where they live. And so kudos to them. But I also want to give kudos, big kudos, and I want to just explain to the general public, there's two issues about the power, about SaskPower, okay? The first issue is there is only one source of power to the north, and that's what caused the headache, okay? That there's one power line going to the north that serviced Elk Ridge, Waskesiu, all those communities north all the way to La Ronge that were out of power for 4 days. I clearly understand that. But with that said, I lift up my hands and cheer for SaskPower for what they did. I was there. I asked the fire chief to forward us a picture. One night at the airport, there was 40 tandem SaskPower trucks there. And as soon as we put the fire out, SaskPower was there. They got some equipment bogged down in the mud because we dropped so much water on that fire. But it didn't stop them. And they worked 24 hours a day to get that power back. So to them, hooray, SaskPower. And they even had a private contractor come in and help them. So they were all hands on deck. But the issue, and I don't want to lose it, wasn't with the fire. The fire was the issue that caused the power outage. But I didn't know this till, of course, as we learned. I didn't know there was only one power route going to the north, and that was the line that went through our property and burnt. And so, I understand that. SaskPower is committed to look at that. I don't know how they could ever correct it, because that would be in the tens of millions of dollars to run another line. But maybe something will happen in the future. But for today and the fire that they were here today, they were there in full force. They were there immediately. They're still there today. What they're doing today, as I drove out and met with them today, what they're doing today is lots of the trees that burnt around the ground, and the tree is still standing. They were removing any tree that could fall and touch the power lines. So you see them all the way along Highway 55, cutting down trees. They had a big private contractor there with a boom, had to be 100 feet to remove some of the bigger trees. But they realized that these trees have been weakened by the fire and that the wind could blow them over. So they've been proactive to not to have another power outage. So everyone involved. The first night at 10 o'clock at night, the mayor of Saskatoon called me. Tammy Cook, the chief of La Ronge, called. I had calls from all over the province asking, what can we do for you? Do you need help? So that's a big community. But of course, that's the province of Saskatchewan. That's what the province of Saskatchewan is. We're all a big community. So I want to reach out and thank everybody that were directly involved in fighting the fires, but I also want to thank everyone that reached out their hands to say, what can we do for you? So we are very lucky to say no loss of life, no loss of structure. So kudos to everybody involved. Okay, I'm going to move.
Chair Lennox.
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to echo those comments. I've heard from several families who were evacuated in the Cloverdale wildfire, and I just really appreciate, and they really appreciate all of those who worked to contain that fire. Big thank you there. Regarding the ward cleanups, I want to say thank you to everyone who volunteered in the cleanup effort. And I know I heard from residents that it was really, really appreciated to have that opportunity to have those bins and to do a big spring cleaning. And I wanted to say especially a thank you to Councillor Charlene Miller for her really great leadership role in those community cleanups. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move out of mayor's and I'm going to move to inquiries. Do we have any inquiries? Oh, sorry, look at my prompter. Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have three inquiries, but one I want to ask first to the Director of Community Services to explain to us Marion Aquatics. I'm getting lots of emails and calls about the city abandoning Marion Aquatics, etc. And I need and I would like the director to explain to us why Marion Aquatics agreement is ending at the end of June, if he could answer that question tonight.
Yep. Director.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. To Councillor Grodnick's inquiry regarding Marion Aquatics, as council is aware, the agreement that we were under with the Sisters of the Presentation of Mary is the term was ending at the end of June. The annual contribution from the city is $143,000. That piece, as it was coming due, we did have a meeting with Sister Lise Paquette that did explain that the sisters just unfortunately aren't in the position any longer to sustain that operation financially. It has become quite, as they get in age and just in the position that they're in, they're ready to move on to the next phase in life. And that's something that they've publicly communicated now. That's something that they wanted to jointly release with the city as part of the reasoning behind the status of the center. So we did respect that. Mayor joined me in the meeting as well, and certainly thanked them for their years of service in the community. And especially this operation, I think it's been close to many residents in the region, and unfortunately the timing was right for them, as Sister Lise has said, and we certainly respect that. So at this point, that's where the relationship sits at this point.
Thank you. And if I could just add to that, Dennis, then it was a heartfelt meeting. The sisters have given their life to our community. So please, let's lift them up and celebrate their retirement and their next stage in their life. They're going to, in the next month, have some big celebrations. They'll be ordaining a new bishop. And one of the last things they're going to do in the middle of June is, and I don't know if they ordain it, but they're accepting another sister into the congregation, a young person, which is a big celebration. And, they're celebrating. So let's celebrate with them. Let's say thank you to them and celebrate with them. At some point in life, nothing's forever. You look at their average age, it's incredible what they've done. And you talk about sacrificing for that pool. It's been the Sisters of Presentation. And, they made us, our city, a better place. And I really appreciate that and thank them. So let's quit the criticism. Let them move on with their next stage of their life. Hopefully, they will be announcing, hopefully, there's no buyers, but the place is up for sale. And hopefully that someone will step forward and soon make a purchase and maybe things can change. But today, we should be lifting them up and celebrating how they made our community better. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you to the director and to you, Mr. Mayor, for that explanation. And that's kind of what I gathered, and I think the public needs to hear that the city didn't abandon the Sisters of the Presentation of Mary. I mean, when Rivier closed, that was, a tragedy for our community as well. But again, I talked with Sister Mary on that one, and it just was time to move on. And so this is, again, time to move on, and as the director said, to have another phase of their life and do something different. So that's what we need to recognize and understand. My other inquiry was, I have a resident that is really upset, and I agree with this resident on being upset of some no parking signs put in front of or on their corner in a residential area. And they phoned me and said, like, were people complaining that people were parking there, or sight vision, or what have you? And I said no. And so they want to know why the city put no parking signs on the north corner of Muzzy and Guy Drive. Nowhere else along Muzzy Road, other than where the crosswalk is with the calming device by the playground,
yes,
are there parking signs. Other places where there are fire hydrants in Crescent Acres, they painted, no parking there. But right across from this house, there's a fire hydrant, and they didn't paint or put no parking in front of that fire hydrant, but you can't park right on the corner. And I drove there, and I just would like a response of why the city decided to put no parking signs on this particular corner for whatever reason. Like, I think we deserve an answer on that one, and it doesn't have to be tonight, but I will submit a form and to get a written response.
Perfect.
And last inquiry is, again, I had several residents very appreciative, but wondering about how we do work. And as you know, Agnew Street was slated last year. With MEEP money, we repaved it. We didn't finish it because of the weather, but it's half done, and the other half of the road now isn't done, and they just would like to know when that is going to happen this year. Like the resident said to me, when you don't finish something from one year, don't you start the next year and do it? And that's the question, is when is that going to be done? What order is that street that started last year going to be finished this year? So I'll submit that as well in writing and get a response from the director on that one. Thank you.
Well, at the same time, we may be able to get an answer. They haven't started their asphalt plant, so.
Well, no, because Byers and Hadley were done.
Okay, this year?
This year, the final.
Okay, I'm going to ask the director, because that was the excuse. Can the director of Public Works come on and see if he can answer that? And also, while we're waiting for him, I too got 2 inquiries in my office that no parking signs went up. And same thing, on a corner, they don't understand why. So I'll also find out that. So Director, can you answer that about the question from Councillor Brodnick? On Agnew?
On the question about Agnew, I will have to look into see why that project hasn't restarted. I can't tell you tonight.
Okay, do they have their asphalt plant going? The last time I made an inquiry, their plant wasn't going.
My understanding, it's going.
Okay. Perfect.
And on the other question about the parking, I'll also have to look into that, because we are going to be doing a review of all of our stop signs, yield signs, no parking signs throughout the city, because over time, you are correct that sometimes there has been requests for specific signs at specific locations that may or may not follow the bylaw. So we'll be looking into that, and I will look into that one on Guy and Muzzy.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Zierakowski.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wonder, for the benefit of the public that's watching tonight, if we can hear from the director about when the splash parks, as well as when the water slide the Kinsman Water Park will open.
Okay, Director of Community Services. And also, he might want to add to that because they announced today about sports. So we might be getting our ball diamonds going in soccer. So did you hear the question, Director?
Yes, Mayor Dion. Thank you for the inquiry, Councillor Zurkowski. A few good updates, absolutely. The first was announced today that league play, not tournaments or events such as provincial championships to that extent have been approved, but league play, local games, things like that are going to allow our minor sport organizations to have some outdoor season this year. So we're currently, since that announcement today, we've been in close contact with them to work through the scheduling and their intentions for the remainder of the season. So we'll have some further updates on that as their plans are confirmed. So that was positive, certainly. The other update regarding the water park, our targeted first day of the water park will be the first Friday in June. We've been working towards that as we normally would. The capacity currently would be set at 100 people in that facility. So that certainly makes it a lot more feasible compared to last year's operation where we only operated the main pool. So the plan this year is to fully operate the water park with those capacity limits. And then we do anticipate during the second step of the provincial reopen plan that capacity will increase potentially to about 150 people or higher. We haven't received that confirmation yet. So as long as everything goes well, that's positive. And then lastly, our playground program and spray parks. We normally operate the playground program beginning the first week of July. Our staff are hired and start the last week of June with their orientation and their training. However, the spray parks will be up and operational in, I would estimate, early June. We just need some of the ground to continue to thaw out and some of those conditions to allow us to turn them on properly without damaging them. But all things are looking quite positive in that respect as well. So we're not calling it necessarily a normal season, but it's very much closer to that compared to last year.
Go ahead,
Thank you for that. So what I've heard in regards to the splash parks is weather permitting, looking good, as soon as possible, we're working on it. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Councillor Cody.
Yes, Your Worship, I didn't have a chance to talk to you prior to the meeting about this, but I just would like to ask this question and see if you have any inclination or any indication of an answer. Can you give us a kind of a status report on the wood supply for the OSB mill as well as the Pivot furniture plant? I know that the announcement, I believe, was made on the OSB mill sometime in early December. That is now December, January, February, March, April, May, and June. We're into June next week. And still no wood supply for the OSB plant. 700 jobs waiting. 700 jobs waiting. The Pivot plant has 100 jobs there presently, probably could do another 500. They're getting wood from Minnesota, from Manitoba, and from Alberta. Where is our wood? That is the question I have for you. If you have any possible answers, and I don't expect you to have full answers, but I'm just wondering if you have any indication at all.
All right, I did meet with Pivot, as you know. Thank you for joining me. No, it's worse than you said, Councillor Cody. It was actually before the election that they were supposed to get their letter. Then they were told after the election they would get their letter. Then December they would get their letter. January they'd get their letter. So I can say this, they do not have their letter. Pivot still does not have their wood supply, even though they built a beautiful building, an incredible operation. When they say they're not a manufacturer, that they're a tech company, they are. We went out there and watched them take boards, go down the line, this x-ray machine x-rayed it, cut the knots out, kicked it out, and then stuck the board back together and planed it. You couldn't even tell that the board was split. And they're producing furniture of all types. You can watch it go from one end to the other end and see a coffee table come out. I forget the number at Chesterfields. They said they can make 1,400, I think it was, in a month once they get up and running. And just so you know, I did serve our MLA notice this morning that I will be starting a heavy public campaign to encourage people to call your MLAs and directly to the Premier. You heard the Minister of Resources announce that they had one of their best years ever and they made over $1 million. Well, we could have made a lot more than that if we had wood allotment for these other companies that are waiting. Not only do we have Pivot waiting, not only do we have the OSB plant, we also have a pallet plant that wants to make pallets. SaskPower is converted two of their coal plants in the south to wood pallets that they're buying from the United States by the train carload. And I do know it's an issue. I do know they're working on it, but they're not working on it at the speed that they should be. We should already have the cement poured for the OSB plant, and Pivot should be hiring and building their other buildings. Yeah, and so it's going to get very public in the next week. You're going to see it in the newspaper. We are writing all of our supporters and our neighbors to phone the Premier directly and ask, where's our wood supply? And it's important that we have it. We have a great opportunity in our city, not only to grow with the construction of the new hospital and our facilities and everything that's happening, but to put, I believe we could put 1,200 people back to work in the forestry industry if they would get their letters today. Because these people that are playing with us are serious. And the part that upsets me the most about the OSB plant, 750 new jobs, I have never seen an application like this where they haven't asked the government for money. All they ask for this province to give them is a wood supply. A wood supply. So that's it. Yeah, let's go. So you're going to see it heat up here in the next week, and it's all hands on deck. We're going to ask all our communities to support us, which I know they will. I've been talking to them. I've been talking to our First Nation partners. They want it because they can put people back to work. So it is going to heat up. So thank you for that question. Thank you very much. No problem. Any other inquiries? Hearing none, I'll move on to number 15, inquiry responses for May the 3rd. Councillor Miller.
That May 3rd, 2021 City Council meeting inquiry responses be received as information and filed.
Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. Councillor Cody. I'll prompt the question. Oop, hang on. I guess I can prompt the question. I got it in the wrong spot. Hold it. I got it in the wrong spot, my dear. For some reason, I didn't. Committee inquiries. Inquiry responses. Okay, I have it prompted. And it's now open. Councillor Zapp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. It's closed. It carries. I accept it. Move on. Okay. Notice of motions. Oop. Councillor Miller.
Yes, thank you. I have 3 tonight.
Okay.
That the city purchase in their 2022 budget a mobile water filling station. That the sanitation department, sorry Sherry, did you get that?
Yep, no, go ahead, because you got to turn in your sheets.
Okay. That the sanitation department along with the communications department take over the cost of the community cleanups in their budgets and host 4 community cleanups located within the city of Prince Albert, 1 in each 4 areas of our city, each 4 corners of our city.
Okay.
And to bring back a report and review. And this one to be heard tonight because we don't meet until a city council meeting till June 25th. that the city let Queen Mary School do a crosswalk at their school in pride colors on June 1st. And this will be heard tonight. Paint the crosswalk, yeah,
Different colors.
in pride colors, like the rainbow.
Yep. Okay, I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other notices? Okay, I'm going to move on to motions. I'll deal with your request at the end of the two motions, Councillor Miller. 17.1, motion from Councillor Edwards, Homeless Abuse Working Group. What's your wish, Councillor Edwards? Oh, sorry.
Well, I'll certainly move the.
Councillor
move the
Edwards.
motion. Also move that the city set up a working group that focuses on homelessness and substance abuse in the city's downtown to include, but not limited to to participation by the following groups: City Council, Police Commission, Prince Albert Grand Council, Peter Ballantyne Cree Nation, Métis Nation, agencies currently working on issues of addictions and homelessness, general members of Parliament, provincial members of the Legislative Assembly, Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Business Improvement District.
Okay, could I get you to remove Peter Ballantyne's part of the Grand Council? Unless you had a direct reason why you were asking them.
I'll go with that this time, yeah.
Okay, so you don't mind removing? Yeah, because they were going to make a presentation with the Grand Council. Thank you.
Tony Head, I'll second that.
Okay.
Hold on, we're discussing this.
Yeah.
Before I officially remove it, I'd like to hear from Councillor Cody.
Yeah. They all have our urban councillors, Councillor Cody.
You know what, I think we're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave that one in there.
Okay,
You
you're
know
not
what,
going to
it's
name
gonna
the
be-
rest of them?
It's good. Pardon?
You're not going to name the rest of them? That's fine.
There's lots that we could include in this, and I hope there's,
Okay. Seconder for his motion, or we're going to have a discussion? Oh,
Tony Head,
Tony Ed, thank you.
I'll second that and offer a comment as well.
No, I didn't get you to say, put you on the queue. I'm going to go down the queue list. So once Councillor Edwards is done, I'll queue it. Can you just kill your light so I can go down the list and then you can come back?
me?
Yeah. Okay, seconder, Councillor Brodnick?
Okay, thank you. I totally support this motion. The only thing that I would like added, perhaps, is not only homelessness and substance abuse, but also food security. People that are hungry, and because that's a lot of our problem is substance abuse and hunger that we have in our community, and we have so many different groups working on food security. And if we could bring all of those different agencies and groups that do this, like I know Isabel MP, the
Christmas dinner.
on Central, what are they?
Salvation Army.
Salvation Army, I mean, all these different groups are food bank, have kitchens, have food, and are offering food security, or assisting in food security for individuals, and there's many more. If we could have them all working with this particular group, I think we could lead to, helping and solving some of these issues. Like Isabel MP would be a valuable person on this particular committee as well. And so that's what I just would ask, if the mover and the seconder would just include food security as part of this focus, so that it deals with all of the issues, social issues that we have in our city.
Could I get you just to kill your light and I'll come back to you? Councillor Edwards?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think that's a wonderful idea, and I agree with Councillor Ogrodnik that it's a concern and it goes hand in hand. And so, yes, I would add it, and I'd like to also make a few comments on the motion just to start. if you
Yes,
don't
now
mind.
that you got a seconder, I was coming back to you to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. So, There's another group on here that I actually would like to have on there, and that's the Indian Métis Friendship Center. Certainly should be on there. There's lots of groups that can be added to this. There's no question. What I know is there's lots of organizations working on similar issues. The problem is many of them aren't working together, and there's a lack of communication. And this is the idea of bringing this group together, is to communicate with each other, because many are fighting for the same funds. They're fighting for the same battle and fighting for the same cause, but we need to have communication on how we can get there, how we can make these improvements. We also need the voices of the government. We need City Council to know what's going on. We need the provincial and federal government to realize that Prince Albert is unique. We're dealing with some issues that many other cities across aren't. They're dealing with some, but not like Prince Albert. And they need to be part of the solution. And I look forward to having them at the table and having these discussions. And it's very important that they have members available for this. I do understand that there's already a group formed. They started not long ago. And I do understand that we have one of our directors that are attending these meetings. And that's great, but I didn't know that. And the communication needs to be there. I think it should be city-led, because it is impacting the city. We're a very transient community. And, lots of people are coming into the city because some they've been banned from their own communities. So within a last resort, they come to our city in Prince Albert. I think we can see big benefits with this communication, and I think it's long overdue. And the downtown is a start, but it's citywide. That's everything for now. I'll talk at the end. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Zierakowski?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I love this idea. I think we've been slowly evolving towards this conversation that, to me, clearly now we are ready to have. The city, we have a role to play here, and that's as host. I see this as a 2.5-day gathering of a round table to chat with these agencies, these partners, these levels of government in an honest and forthright way and say, what are your challenges? What are you doing in our city? What services do you provide? Why are we fighting for the one toonie that's available? And why are we concerned about empire building with our own agency? Perhaps the solution is inviting also the member First Nations from PA Ground Council instead of Ground Council. In addition to, I shouldn't say instead. But I'm not going to worry about the color of the paint on the front door right now. I think bringing these people together to look around the table and ask social services, what are you doing in our city? To ask the Indian Métis Friendship Center, what are you doing in our city? And go around the table and ask everybody to share what they're involved in. I think listening and sharing that story is so powerful and really important. So I think sending out the invitation and asking every single agency and every single member my colleague mentioned on that list is very important. They may not show, which is unfortunate. We'll leave a little name tag in front with their name on it, that they won't be there. This is a conversation that will grow. There's a few issues mentioned on there, but I think once we get people in the room, what are you doing in our community? What should we be doing? What strengths do you bring to the table? What gaps are there out there? How do we measuring that? And where do we want to be in 2 to 5 years? I think it's time we had this roundtable discussion, and I thank my colleague for bringing it forward.
Councilor Miller? Oh, what happened? Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just like to add to the list as well, the Bernice Sailly Center. I think they have a valuable thing going on down there as well, and stuff to share. Thank you for bringing this forward, Councillor Edwards. I think it's a very good step forward in our city.
Center being added.
Thank you. And with gatherings now becoming larger, we'll soon be able to have this meeting. Because we're going to need 150, 30 ain't going to do it. So don't think it's going to happen tomorrow, but it'll be priority on the list as soon as social gatherings can happen. Okay. Councillor Head, did you want to comment?
I did. Thank you, Your Worship. I have to say I was quite excited about this motion from Councillor Edwards last week, and so very excited to support this motion and to do the much needed work that this committee can achieve. And so I understand there was a committee in place previous to this, but I'm happy to see this take roots here and moving forward with this. So looking forward to it.
Okay. Councillor Zepp, did you have a comment or you're good?
Yes, please. Question for the mover. I had a resident ask me a question. In the list of organizations, you mentioned agencies that are working on these topics, and the resident was wondering if the Saskatchewan Health Authority could be invited to the table. And I'm just wondering if that was in something the mover envisioned here at all.
Yeah, it was included in agencies. It would be health, social services, justice, all the agencies.
Yeah, I think that would be good, and I'd be looking forward to this type of discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I'm going to prompt the vote. Homelessness, ready for the vote. Councillor Head?
Yes.
Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Passed unanimously. Thank you. Oop, accept. Sorry. I'm ready again. Okay. Next motion on the table, motion Councillor Zierakowski. It's already done. Oh, sorry. Well, that's what you were looking at. I thought you were praying.
Red, white, or blue? I'm not sure which one. Thank you.
Sorry.
No worries. I think at this point, I'm going to let those conversations go on that are continuing in our community. Let those go on. And I'm sure this will be a discussion that will pop up again in the fall. But at this point, I'll withdraw my motion.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Edwards? Yes. And we have to vote on it. Now, just to comment on this, thank you, Councillor Zierakowski. I am going to invite you to a meeting, a couple of you, because they only want a couple of us to come to start. But the Saskatchewan Housing Authority is redoing the Prince Albert Housing Authority, and we will soon have a seat. And look at how many years we've been asking on that. And I did talk to them about the $35, and they did not have an issue with it. To the point, we did give them police counts to their building. They did request that, and actually they're having a meeting now on how they can improve things by putting security, other means into it. So it certainly will come back to us on that. So I'll just quickly prompt the question. Okay, the vote is now open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, motion carries. Close it. Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Miller. So your first motion, Councillor Miller, is you have to ask for leave to hear your motion to heard, and then you have to get 2/3. Oop, sorry. Okay, that's your motion?
Thank you. That leave be granted to consider the motion today.
Thank you. Seconder? Okay, Council Kilmore? Okay, so I'm going to prompt the vote. No. Oh, yeah, it's not on here. Sorry. Just give me a minute. We've got to add it on. I like this. Okay, the vote is now open. Councillor Zepp,
Yes.
Councillor Head.
Yes.
Oh, passed unanimously. Okay, Councillor Miller, you're up to make your motion, please.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. That the city-led Queen Mary School, Community School, do a crosswalk at their school in pride colors on June 1st. I had one of the teachers get a hold of me, and she knows that she was too late to bring it here tonight, and the next council meeting that we have is on the 25th, and Pride Month is June, and it starts on June 1st. So they would like to do their crosswalk on June 1st.
Okay, seconder? Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Zerkowski?
Just wondering if that busy street, if we're able to allow the city, as if there's a role for the city to play insofar as signage or barricades on half the street or whatnot to help with those, that traffic. Or the gravel trucks going by shit houses.
So Councillor Miller, if you could just add, and that this City Public Works Department assist. Just that's all you need, so then they know they've got instructions from council to help.
Right, so I have that the Public Works Department needs to block off 15th Street from 9th Avenue to 12th Avenue from 9 a.m. in the morning. The kids will start at 9:30, and they would like the paint to dry till 4. So they'll need barricades, also signs that for the detour, and the signs as well that say this detour is 40 miles an hour or whatever it is.
Okay, my only questions, boy, you're asking me to vote to shut down a major artillery and do detours, and I can't do that.
The children are asking you for their support.
I understand
Marion.
that. But, so that's what they want? They want it shut down for an 8-hour period?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Councillor Zerkowski?
Well, I'm supportive of the motion.
So am I.
I'm wondering if the second part is a little bit too prescriptive. If Public Works has an idea of a plan to help assist the school do what they're doing without shutting down that traffic on 15th Street for a day, whether it's half the street.
Thank you, and the next day half
And
the
then
street.
do the other half the next day. There's some solutions out there that if we're creative, I think we can make this happen.
Okay, back to Councillor Miller.
Yeah, and I don't really want to argue the point of for right. But I think about the one I went to up at Carleton, and we did half the road in the morning, and then we did the half of the road in the afternoon. And I remember, and I'll let Councillor Kilmore say a few words on that because she was involved with that one. Drivers have no patience.
Correct.
Absolutely none. So in order to keep the children safe doing their thing, I believe that we have to close down the road.
Okay, Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you. I'm supportive of number one, but as well, Councillor Miller, I think like our Public Works right now does all the crosswalks, and we never shut a road down.
Never.
6th Avenue, we don't shut down when they paint the crosswalk. 2nd Avenue, we don't shut down when they paint the crosswalk. And so it can be done. And I think we want safety of those children painting. And we have a different, we don't have adults painting, it's children painting. So we are going to have to be extra safe in doing that. But I have total confidence that the Public Works as well as the police will be there assisting as these kids do the project that I think we're all going to approve tonight. And that's what I would ask us to do, so that I like how point 2 reads now,
Yes.
where it says assist providing safety. Public Works, and even perhaps asking the police, and I'm sure the police will be there anyway.
Oh, absolutely. Great project.
They'll make darn sure that they're there and making sure that this is as safe as possible for these children. And I thank you, Councillor Miller, for bringing this forward this year. So thanks.
Councillor Kilmer.
I too support, obviously, because I seconded it. And in the past, I have been part of the school that I was principal at. We did do the crosswalks a couple of times, learned a lot of lessons, thick paint, thin paint, dodge, when to dodge.
When to run.
But the most important thing that I learned through that was that the kids really appreciated that the city let them do that.
Yes.
And that the Public Works Department be there ready when the kids are ready to paint, and that the kids then get to be involved with our city employees, and our city employees get to see how prideful those children are and how much they want our community to continue to embrace everyone. So as long as Councillor Miller is good with point 2, I think that Public Works will definitely be an asset in helping the kids stay alive on that street.
And also, if you make sure that we have the dates in advance, that we will have the police there, because this is a community event. We have community officers, we have school liaison officers, and this is a great time for us to be proud and get involved. So are you okay with number 2 then?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll prompt the vote. No? Oh, no. No? Okay, I won't prompt the vote. I may have the control, but I don't have the off and on switch. Ready to vote? Okay, the vote is open. Councillor Zepp?
Yes.
Councillor Head?
Yes.
Thank you. Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, there's no public forum. Councillor Kilmer? Seconded. Councillor Sierkowski, all in favor? We're adjourned.